You reached NYC, and this is one thing that Priyanka has dreamt about. She has clearly fought very much for it to happen. Is it what you imagined?
I think now if I can go back in time and tell myself, the girl that was boarding the plane, I would have wanted to tell her that, look here, this is going to be the hardest thing that you have ever done in your entire life.
Hello and welcome to Sit Still, Look Pretty. Okay, I know everybody's a little bit weirded out. Why is only Priya greeting us today? Because I have to say, today's episode is a very special episode. Okay, let me just introduce the theme, and I feel like once I do, you guys will have a clue on what's going on today. So the theme of this episode is Big City, Bigger Lessons. She's back. Okay? She's back and jet-lagged, but she's not off her game. You've seen the NYU updates, the apartment reels, and her chai cravings, but what's the real tea? It's time to find out. Let's welcome our guest speaker for today's episode, Miss Priyanka.
Sit still, look pretty.
This feels very weird because I've done this as a solo. I've not done this like with you being the one who's interviewing me.
This is not going to be an easy ride, Miss Priyanka.
Oh my God.
We want to know everything that has went on for the past few months. You left in January and you came back in May.
Yeah.
So that's a solid 4 to 5 months. And we want the real tea.
Okay, got it. I'm here for that tea. I didn't, which is why I consciously also knew that I wanted the podcast to be the official one that kind of shares like my thoughts and my feelings. So I'm also excited. Disclaimer, I don't know any of the questions that Priya has prepared for. You better be nice.
My first question
Okay.
is that I think since I've known you, you've always mentioned wanting to study in New York. And you actually did apply to study in New York for your degree, but you got rejected.
Thanks. That was so humbling.
But what can you do, right? But Miss Ma'am here said, I'm going to keep applying till they give me a seat. And that's exactly what happened. You got the NYU yes. So tell me, how did that feel? Like seeing the letter for the first time, the emotion, like what hit you first?
I remember I was in Korea when the letter came in. And I think it was close to 11 p.m. And then we were winding down for the day and I received the email that says that your status application for NYU is updated. Click to open. And I remember, right, I was going to sleep. My mom and my dad were awake. I didn't say anything to them. I just I took a deep breath and then I opened it. And that's when it was the first person that I texted. It was you. And I was like, Priya, you won't believe this. I got in. And what was very sweet during that time was I could see that we were texting each other, but I could feel the sense of joy you had for me because what you said, you have been in this ride with me whereby you knew that I applied for it during my degree and I got rejected and this is the second time. So of course, the moment I got in, I looked at my parents and I said, I'm going New York. And I remember it's always funny to think back because my dad was so happy for me because he knew how much I wanted this. My mom, there was no expression on her face. She just looked at me blanked and she was like, what? You got in? It's almost like she thought that I wouldn't get in. So yeah, but from then onwards, I was like, that's it. I'm going. Nobody else gets to talk me out of you're not going, Priyanka. It was all set because I've waited for this moment for this long. So yeah, it's always one of those unforgettable moments in my life, for sure.
I mean, it's something that you've wanted for so long and you finally got it. But I think I understand your mother's hesitation because it's a big change, right? Now you're thinking about moving expenses. There's new financial fees that you have to think about. There's going to be the entire situation of moving to a whole new country and living there for 2 years. That's a lot to process. Yeah. And you're finally in New York. You took the 19-hour journey, you reached NYC, and this is one thing that Priyanka has dreamt about. She has clearly fought very much for it to happen. Is it what you imagined?
No.
So tell me, what was that first 24 hours? What was that first week like?
I think right from the moment that I stepped out of the plane, if I be very honest, it was a culture shock moment because I looked at the immigration line and I was like, wait, like I kept second guessing myself. I was like, I don't think this is the immigration line because the immigration line is going like insane. So I was like, maybe I'm standing in the wrong line. So I keep looking around myself. By the way, this is my first time in the United States. I have never been to the States before. So no clue, nothing whatsoever. So then as the line progressed, I realized that, okay, I am in the correct queue. And this is the first time ever in my life. I have traveled so much till date. I stood in the immigration for 2 hours. And at some point, I was like, I remember texting you at the immigration line and going like, Priya, I think I'm going to pass out. And I think that probably scared you so much because you were like on the phone every few minutes.
What can I do? Like literally, she's like thousands of miles away. You know? It's such a... I mean, it was unnerving for me and I'm just like reading text messages. I can't imagine what it must have been like for you.
God, talking about this is so hard now. Why? Gosh. Yeah. But from then on, like everything, if I be honest, I felt like that was the start to the realization that things here are going to be so different. Things here are going to be so hard. Things here are things that you have never experienced ever in your life, and you better be ready from here forth. So I'm very grateful because I had one of my friends who's in Canada who flew down to New York, you know. So she made the effort to fly down to New York to help me to kind of like get to know the city before she goes back. And I can remember, Priya, I didn't share this on Instagram, but I'm just telling you on the podcast that the day that I slept and I woke up the next morning, I was like, should I go back home? Because number one, I couldn't sleep. Number two, I just felt like so out of place. Something that you have dreamed for so long, it kind of made me feel so weird because I was like, why do I feel like I don't belong here? Weirdly, you know, after that 24 hours of like sleeping and waking up, it also didn't help that the day that I freaking landed after 2 hours of immigration and I went back to the hotel around like 10 p.m. Girl realizes that, oh my God, her AirPods, her MacBook, her iPad is all missing. But really, that one, I truly feel like that is what I call divine intervention. Because the moment I realized it, the next moment I'm taking my phone, there was the message from like LinkedIn being like, hi, I found your valuables. Like, would you want to meet me to get it back? So I didn't even have like processing time for myself that, oh shit, like you... Thank God, because I don't know what I would have done, you know. So I like all these things to have all these things happened back to back in 24 hours, which felt very insane to me. That the next morning I woke up and I was like, I don't want to stay here. But yeah, so the first day was very hard. I'm not going to lie. But the next 3 to 4 days, I was fine because I had a friend. So it didn't really feel like it kind of, and it was giving a lot of energy of like, I'm on a holiday because we were going to watch the Wicked musical. We were doing touristy stuff, you know, seeing NYU, my school. So nothing really hit me. When it truly hit me is when she left and I was all by myself. And till today, I'm so grateful for my friend flying down because I think she could see it on my face when she was about to leave that I was so scared because I don't know. The truth is, I don't have a lot of people who come to the United States. They know somebody. Like I've noticed after that, like whenever I speak to people, it's either their family is there, their friends is there, or somebody is in like Boston or whatsoever. And then I look at myself, there's nobody, absolutely nobody in the United States for myself. So even if it's an emergency and I want to call somebody, I don't know anybody. So I remember when she left, she looked at me in the eye and she said, I want you to know that if you think New York is not for you, you can always go back home. This is not set in stone. It's fine if you think that. Just try your school, go for classes. But if you think it's not going to work out, you have not failed if you choose to go back home. And I really felt like I held those words that she said very tightly. As much as it was hard after that, after she left, that words like really carried me through. So that's how the first 1 week went.
That is so sweet. And this is somebody that you actually met like during like like a month away for like an exchange program when you were in uni.
Yeah, that's right. I went for exchange in Edinburgh and that's when I met
And
her.
what like a wholesome connection to make. And clearly, like, you know, for it almost feels like everything was like planted in place for a very specific reason, right? Because who knew that the person that you were meeting what in 2022, 2023?
Yeah, I think it was 2020. Yeah, 2022. No, it was 2022. Yeah, oh my God.
The person who you were meeting in 2022 on that supposed like random like 1 month exchange in Edinburgh was going to be the person who was going to bring you around New York City in 2025. It's so bizarre, but oh my God, I think a wonderful connection to be very, very grateful for, because I think, like you said, you literally knew nobody, and to go somewhere without like a support system is kind of insane.
Yeah.
And so just having somebody for that first few days to kind of like help you sink into the new reality that you're about to like walk into is very, very precious.
Yeah.
Before I jump into the education side of like what you experienced, I want to talk about, okay, I think if there could be an ambassador for birthday celebrations, it would be Miss Priyanka. And if you have followed Priyanka for a very long time, you would know that she actually spent her first like birthday alone in Berlin, and it was a terrible experience. Like, girlie went through so much. Like, when you opened her stories, she was in tears. Like, she was struggling, but she made it through. And then you eventually turned 26 in New York by yourself one more time.
Yeah.
So can you tell me what changed?
What changed was it was still painfully very hard. Like what you say, I'm a very huge birthday person. I must celebrate it. I must cut the cake. I must be with my family. So I kind of knew, like what you say, the Berlin experience kind of like warmed me up that it's going to be a horrible day. So I learned my lesson. Back in Berlin, I was like, oh, I should distract myself. I should do something, I should try to buy a cake. But we learned from the previous experience that distraction doesn't work. If you're sad, you're sad. So what changed was in New York, I was like, you're going to be sad. You're going to not want to do anything. So don't do anything. So for the first time, I didn't have any plans on my birthday. Like I didn't want to do anything. I told myself, just call and talk to everybody. You feel like crying, you get to cry on that day. You don't have to cut a cake. So I didn't cut like a cake. Like I didn't buy a cake officially and cut. But something that truly, I just want to say that the timeline, so before my birthday, it was extremely bad. Like I was going through so much. Like I said, as the time evolved in New York, from the time I landed in January, I was like, this is not working out. I need to go back home. Like as I'm going for classes and everything, and all the conversations with you, with my I put through my mom so much because I kept telling her that I have to go, I want to go. I convinced her, and then I reached over there, I'm calling her and I'm like, so I don't think this is like working out. So all these things was happening before my birthday. And then on the midnight of my birthday, the truth is I went to sleep already. And then I heard the knock on my door, and then it was one of my roommate that knocked the door, and then she called. So like, by the way, I didn't know any of this, that she actually went to invite two girls who I presumed that she was close with. And that's why she invited them to like my room to cut like cake for me. What? Again?
No, I was going to say she wasn't close with them.
So the joke of the century is she wasn't. She basically just like met them. Like she met one of the girl at like the lobby and she made friends.
Oh my God.
Actually, if you're listening to this, girl, like you amaze me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then another girl, like I
Love
think they met like in school. They are classmates and like they just like spoke a few times. So what she did was, it seems that at like around 10 plus, she went to these two like doors and went knocking and went like, hi, so I'm celebrating my roommate's birthday.
Oh my
Would you like to come?
That is so, love that energy.
And it's funny how I learned about this entire story like 2 months later, when we were all a bit more bonded and like having conversation. And I was like, wait, what? Like you all didn't know each other? And they all were like, no. So we met for the first time for your birthday. I was like, Great. But yeah, so when I opened the door, I was like, wow, that's so sweet of her. She baked a cake. And then there were two of them sitting down there. And I promise, Priya, from the time that I came to New York, I think if I had a therapist, she would probably say that you're diagnosed with depression or something. I'm pretty sure because it was so miserably bad. That was the first time on midnight when I cut the cake and I sat down and I spoke to, including my roommate, like we will have exchange of conversation, but it wasn't like we won't talk much, Like she was more outgoing in terms of, but because I think I was going through so much, I kind of like kept to myself as well. But that midnight, like everybody sat down together and we were talking. So that's when I was getting to know, including my roommate, I was getting to know her a bit better on my birthday, And I was so immensely touched. And I just want to say that night, it kind of changed like a lot of things. So when I woke up the next day, I missed home a lot. But something in my heart kind of clicked after that. I was like, okay, I don't think it's going to be a horrible journey because you seem to have friends. That was the start of even having a friend, if I can say so, in New York.
So cute. And to bake a cake as well.
Yeah.
Like, that is so... I feel like it's sketchy when you're living in a hostel and you get a roommate because you don't know who you're getting. And unfortunately, there is like a lot of like nightmare roommate stories out there. So I feel like the universe really was like, okay, girl, I see you. You're struggling. Clearly, you're going through a lot. Let me send you some nice people so that, at least on that side of things, you're like looked after and you're covered.
As time progressed, Priya, I learned something else in New York, whereby it is not a culture in New York where people are doing things for you. And that's because people are so busy over there. And the truth is, everyone in New York is there for like a selfish reason. If you can just put it out there, because everyone in New York that's also why they call it a very transactional city, because people are there for a very short period of time. They are trying to either secure a job, they are trying to either finish their studies. So everybody is actually selfishly focused on themselves. So it's a culture that nobody really thinks about like, oh, I want to do something out of, and that's when as time progressed, I was like, do you actually know how lucky you are to have met this circle of people who are like so nice, especially my roommate, of course, She was also the one that had that conversation with me saying that like, so people here are really different. And I was like, I see. Yeah.
So this is your first time being introduced to an entirely different like education system. And for your master's, no less. So that's a big jump because your master's is not going to be sitting down and asking you to solve 2 + 2 = 4. Like you're writing like thesis papers, you're doing like intense research work. So what was that shift in like education system like? And how did you manage to like kind of adapt and progress in a situation like that?
So I just want to put it out there that everyone has this very ideal concept that, oh, our Singapore education system is like so tough. The overseas education system, it's like chill. It's because that's what we always hear, right? People going there, they have like a very good balance. Oh my freaking God.
I think masters is an entirely new ball
Yeah,
game.
maybe it's the fact that I'm doing my master's, so it's a lot different. But then again, I have like a friend who's like in the same, like not the same course, but in the same program, doing something else. And his life and my life is completely two different things. And I'm like, he's like, so I'm actually done with all my assignments. What are you doing this weekend? And I'm like, what the hell?
Who's this guy? What are you doing, Miss Priyanka?
We all have friends, Miss Priya. Okay? Moving
Friend,
on,
she says.
yeah, moving on to what I was actually saying.
Okay, tell me.
Yeah, so that's when I learned that, okay, the program that I have chosen / the course I've chosen is a very intensive one as well. It is extremely exciting that I can say that I'll just be honest, I've never went to any of my classes in Singapore being like, oh my God, I'm so excited to walk into this class to learn today. But I swear, like my classes in New York, I'm so excited to go for class. I don't miss it unless I am really sick. I think this would have been the most fantastic attendance ever in my life in New York, because the classes are so enjoyable. Like you are really learning from the best and things like that. But at the same time, it was so freaking tough because I kind of actually made a switch if you think about it, because we have been doing communications for so long, right? And I finally realized that, okay, in communications being like a huge thing, like I found like my calling more towards like marketing. And marketing has the business aspect as well. You can't study marketing without knowing the business aspect. And I'm not from the business school. I've done nothing to do with business like all my life, So that was so tough. And like what you say, you're not doing it's not your diploma, it's not your bachelor's, it's a master's level kind of a program. So they kind of expect you to come with like a little bit of like the business knowledge. So people in my program like have done the mathematical part. Like a lot of them are actually like they do know the mathematical side of it. Me, oh my God, I'm so bad at math. And so that was another like huge problem that I was going through over there, is because I hate maths, Priya. Like I don't mind psyching myself to do science. Like math, like no way in hell,
Same.
know? Yeah.
Horrible.
I'm not kidding. Like there was like even a time in class that there was even like a moment of like panic attack, and I didn't even realize that I was going through a panic attack because the entire whiteboard was just filled with like algebra kind of like equation, and my professor is just writing like, so this is how you solve, and then you're sitting for like midterm paper, and I'm just sitting down there like, how do I have no knowledge, no background. So like, it's constantly a question of like, can I do this? I don't think I can do this. Like, what the hell is on the board? Like, it's like higher level of math / so like sometimes they are like, so you would have learned this in your calculus. I was like, calculus what?
Jesus, we've never even like been introduced to the term here in Singapore.
Yeah, we think the education system is a bit more relaxed and whatsoever. It's not. The program that I was in, it was not. Every single day was like, because people who have that background, of course, they lived their life a little bit more better in that sense. I don't think they were as busy and as packed as I was, because they could see the sunlight, a little bit more sunshine. They went out over the weekends. For myself, 7 days of studying had to be put in. I knew that if I want to pass, I have to study every day. I have to do work every day. So that was very different from Priyanka in NTU and Priyanka in FMS, whereby, Friday night, let's go. Yeah. It didn't happen there.
I mean, Priyanka is ever so humble. She's only talked about, the difficulties that she went through, but she didn't share the success she saw too because of the hard work that she put in. Because, like you said, I feel like it's a very real thing to go into like a system where you're like essentially learning subjects that you've never touched. And it's very scary because now you are doing calculations of like an advanced level when you don't even have the foundation. And what was really interesting was, I think Priyanka was really put in a position where she saw two sides of things, where one of her subjects, she didn't have the best guidance in like leading her to essentially kind of adapt to the new change that she was being put through. So she had to do the work like entirely by herself. She had to build herself like ground up. But she also saw the side of things where she had the proper guidance, where she was given the help that she needed to kind of ease her into the situation and like build her up steady. But what was so remarkable is that she managed to do exceptionally well in both. And I think that speaks to your character more than anything. Because besides the point that she revealed that, one, the curriculum is entirely different and it's very intense, the grading system in New York seems to be entirely different as well. Because from what Priyanka has told me, where a 50 here is a C, a 50 there is an F. And is it a 70 that determines whether you get a C?
Yeah, that's right.
And
You're
basically
right.
anything below a 70, you failed.
Yeah.
So that's a huge jump, because now for somebody who hasn't been exposed to, these kind of like mathematical subjects yet, one, now you have to learn it from scratch, and two, you have to make sure you get a 70. There's no like, okay, let me just try my best to pass and then like call it a day. No, you got to get that 70. And to get that 70, you need to know your ish. Right? I feel like my heart broke for Priyanka, because she's not kidding when she says that she worked like 7 days a week, because that's really what she did. Like, I think there was a point in time where I would wake up and I would just Zoom Priyanka, and then I would go on with and then we would like Zoom till she has to go to bed, because it's like a 12 to 13 hour difference, right? So whenever it's morning here, it's nighttime there. So I would Zoom with her till she has to go to bed, and then she would wake up, and then I would Zoom with her again until I have to go to bed, because like that's how much of like work she needed to put in to like even get a C at the end of the day.
I just want to say that without you on the Zoom call,
Shout out to Auntie as well, because there was also a point in time where Priyanka's mum was doing the same thing,
yeah.
where every morning she would Zoom Priyanka. No, it was a WhatsApp call.
Yeah, WhatsApp call. Yeah.
And then she would just sit with you while Priyanka like tried to study, had multiple breakdowns, and then had to dust herself off and continue studying one more time.
This whole experience made me appreciate a lot of things. Like, I feel that I'm so lucky to be living in a time whereby technology is such, because like what you say, when you're so far, when somebody, even when you want to reach for help, sometimes it feels like nobody there can help me with what I'm going through. But this small thing that you guys were doing for me kind of ensured that even when I want to give up, I'm like, no, my friend is on that call with me, because not like she has nothing better to do. She has things to do clearly, but she's on the call trying to help me. My mom included, she's like cooking halfway and then like doing her work halfway. And like throughout the thing, you'll see that her phone moves with her because she's like, you're working, I'm working too. Okay? You got this, honey.
Cute.
But yeah.
Love you, Auntie. She's a great, great mom. It's funny that I'm the one saying this, but it was very unnerving, like the initial first month maybe that you were in New York. For me, it was so like unsettling, because I felt like every time you hopped on a video call, I could see that you were like literally trying to hold every piece of you together with like the thinnest string, and like I never prodded you on it, because I felt like one question and you'd snap.
I like how you knew it, but never ever expressed to me that you knew that. Okay.
I wrote down what I felt like you were going through, and that was the reason why I didn't like ask you this question, because I feel like we've come to a point in our friendship where, like, if you need to tell me something, I know you'll open your mouth and say it. So if you are not telling me something, it's because you're struggling to like kind of like name it on your own. And it feels almost like unsafe to like name it, because you don't know what opening this can of worms will do to you. And you're not in a position where you can like have this breakdown, because you're like, shit, I need to do things. I need to get things done. Like, so it's a very like scary position for you to be in. But to me, it felt like, you can like deny or confirm this, but this is what I wrote down. It looked like you felt very undeserving of fear, doubts, and like comfort, because you asked for this, right? You chased for this. The fees are paid, the accommodations are booked, you've registered, you've enrolled. So how could you turn around and say, I don't want to do this anymore? But that's exactly what you were feeling in that moment.
To answer the question as it is, I regretted it. Like, when I think about like 2 months in, I was like, you actually made the wrong decision. You thought you knew what you were getting yourself into, but you absolutely had like no shit of like what this whole journey was going to be. Because in my head, I thought I knew New York. Like because I've wanted this for so long, I kind of thought that I did do enough research. And in my words, what research meant was I follow like about five YouTubers that I kind of grew up with, as like stupid as it sounds, like from the age of 16 up till today, I still like follow them. I watch their vlogs. So like that's how even the desire formed that like I belong in New York. New York is where I have to be because it's the place whereby you chase your dreams. Now, this whole thing sounds so fancy, right? Like, I'm starting in New York, I'm living the dream, I'm in Big Apple, like all these things, like when you see it, like, and you see them living that life, it kind of inspires you and you kind of feel that, okay, I'm passionate. I like to do things as well. Like, I definitely will make it there. But I think something that people don't vlog and people are not going to show you is, face fact, the first problem that I really faced and like kind of really broke me is I don't come from a rich family. Like that's the hard, honest truth. Okay. Like we are not like, everybody is not like well-to-do. We can make ends meet. Of course, we are on the average side. So we get to enjoy luxuries here and there. And of course, we get to go on a holiday vacations and things. But do we get to live life like the rich? Never, So when I went there and like, I was like, within like 2 weeks, I wiped out my bank account. And I was like, how the hell is this possible? Because when I left with a huge sum of money in my bank account. So I was a bit like, and then believe it or not, I sat down and I looked through every single transaction that I had made in the 2 weeks. And it was just buying food, buying grocery, just these two things that I did. And my bank account was wiped out. And that's when I realized that, holy freaking shit, you are living in the most expensive city in the world. And for me to be in New York, it is an entire family back at home, like supporting me through this. How do you look at your family 2 weeks after you have been there and be like, so I don't have like money in my bank account anymore? In New York, just to buy yourself breakfast, easily it comes up to a USD 25. Just your coffee and your bagel, that is a USD 25 to USD 20 that you're looking at. So imagine like your grocery store, you can just buy the most basic thing like your milk, eggs, and the basic of the basic, and you're paying USD 30, 40. So it's always... That's when I learned that, okay, you need to ration and eat. And it was a very new concept to me because at home, like in my house, there's no such thing called we ration and eat. I never grew up with that kind of a concept, So I was like, okay, this is all very new, and like, so financially, I feel like let's not even talk about emotionally, all this kind of thing. I think what always breaks you the first in life, people say that money doesn't buy you happiness. Oh my God, we need to have a conversation.
I feel like that's a very like shallow way of looking at it. When it's like people with money would say, money doesn't buy you happiness.
Because even if I'm sad, I'm going to want that ice cream. So like, what are you talking about? That money doesn't buy you happiness.
I think it buys you opportunities. And that's very huge when you're living in the current economy, right?
Yeah.
And we think Singapore is expensive, right? I mean, it is. And then you go to New York. And I think what is like really, really tough is that it's not like your parents are in New York and they are earning US money that they are putting in. They are earning Singapore dollars that they are then transferring to USD. And then like that, eventually you lose like about half of that money by the time it transfers over to you, like USD.
Yeah, that's the truth.
On top of the immensely high school fees you're like paying, your hostel fees, your day-to-day like food, your transportation, like I can't imagine the amount of like burden that like falls upon your shoulders, your family's shoulders.
A question that will always frustrate me when I'm in New York is when my family calls and go, so what did you eat? Because like there were so many points that I got so mad with that question because I'm like, I am so hungry, but I cannot tell you all that I'm so hungry, like because I was like, I made this decision. It's on me that like, I cannot go back to anybody at home and be like, I don't have enough or like this city is very expensive. But I think somehow my family kind of like figured out that like, she's not eating properly. Like the money that's being sent is actually not enough to like survive in like New York. Then even grocery is like very expensive. So like this was the financial burden was the hardest one when I entered to New York, because I was like, shit, like I should have known that, like, because now it feels like it's my fault that I'm putting my family through this. So let's put aside like financial now. Then comes your relationships in life, because everybody who is with you is over there, right? The thing is, when I was in Berlin for like 6 months, and then my summer exchange program also, that was like 1 month, and then I traveled across Europe for like a period. I want you to know that during all these moments, I never went on all these things, all these trips, having in my mind that I want to make new friends. I want to form new relationships in my life. I want to like, that was never the reason why I went on all these things. It was always, I wanted to like educationally improve myself, you know, those kind of things that I wanted to do. I wanted to see the job market for myself. So whenever I go to all these places, to myself, I'll always tell myself that I'm a very independent person, as you know. You know, I don't rely on people. I have very loving friends here, but at the same time, I don't hold on to anybody in my life so tight as well. Like, it is just a person that I am. So when I went to New York, like, I'll be honest in saying that it didn't scare me that I didn't have anybody over there. Because to me you're always an independent person. You have done all this traveling or everything. You're going to be fine in New York, like being by yourself and doing things by yourself. It is always hard regardless. But because I am so confident in just being by myself, I don't look for people. So the second thing that broke me in New York was, as time went by, I realized that New York is not a place whereby you can be, I'm independent, I can do this by myself, I don't need any relationships in my life, I don't need anybody new in my life because I got this. I think that was the one that I was like really fighting so hard with, because every time a situation would form whereby I need to reach out for help, I'll be like, no, I don't need that help because I want to figure this out for myself. So everybody around you has probably figured it out, done things already. I'm still trying to figure it out because I'm trying to do it on my own. So it became very miserable as like time went by, because I kept like shunning myself. Like people would come and be like, hi. My reply to them was, hi. That's it. It stopped. I wouldn't make any effort to be like, hi, what's your name? Like, where are you from? Which city you're from? Because to me, it's like, I'm just here to study. Like, I'm not here to make new relationship, no new friends in my life. And then as time went on, I realized that, oh my God, I am falling behind because this is not working. So that's when you're asking like when the change happened. It's when I realized that, okay, financially is bad. You have nobody over there at all. The system, everything in the United States works very differently. A lot of people don't know this from the rest of the world. Like, I truly say this as humbly as I can. Like all the systems in Europe/Singapore, we are so blessed. Like truly, we are so blessed. And I cannot emphasize how blessed we are until like somebody experiences the life over there, you know, because the system is so different. You either need to have somebody to guide you through, or you need a friend to at least fall back on. Because if I'm going to call you and tell you, so Priya, like today I needed this letter, that letter, you are going to be like, what letter are we actually talking about? You know, like that's the truth.
Yeah.
It's not saying nobody understands back at home, but you really need someone who is able to like guide you. So that's when it was a very nice timing that my cousin sister also called me during I think because my mom could see that, okay, in about a week, Priyanka is probably going to come back home, because the time is running 2 months in. I am getting more and more depressed. It's not working out. So the breaking like thing in my life was the call from my cousin sister, which I will always like, I really give it to her, because when she called me, and that time I remember the first question she showed me on the phone. She was like, your Instagram is dead silent. What's going on? That was the first question she asked me. And then I was like, and then she was like, Priyanka, I really need you to tell me what is going on. Because if you don't tell me what is going on, I cannot help you. Because at that point, the truth is I was hiding a lot of things also. Like I was hiding the financial side to my family. The relationship side also and the fact that I'm not happy in New York, I was also hiding that because I didn't want to turn back to anybody at home and say that I regret this decision. I don't think this was the correct thing that I did, because the main thing was the fees are paid. Like if I'm going to come out from this, like another question that I had was, freak my life, the fees. You are not paying in like 5,000, 2,000. You're paying in like 10,000s of like USD dollars, So to come out of it is also like a financial commitment over there. So when she called me, she was like, what's going on? So I remember I put down my ego, everything. I told her everything. And the first thing she told me was like, Priyanka, you have to make a friend. I'm so sorry to break this ego of yours. She was like, you're not going to get anything in life if you're going to be like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to like communicate or ask for help or things. She was like, so she gave me this agenda. She was like, I need you to make at least one friend in the city. Like just so. Then she was like, because if anything happens to you, Priyanka, like let's face the fact, like your apartment is having a fire. Can you call home? And that's when I realized that shit, my life has changed. I'm here for the long haul. I cannot be this stubborn about my life. And from then on, it's when things changed because I was like, okay. And then she told me this thing. And then I was like, sometimes I really want to cook also because financially it's so expensive to eat outside. I'm like, I want to cook. But my workload in school is so much. I'm struggling academically that I don't have the time because the thing is, I don't cook back at home in Singapore.
Yes, I know.
When I started to like really cook in New York, I'm so slow like at cooking. And at the same time, we don't have much of a kitchen space in New York as well. So you cannot store all your things. So like, when the cooking hours also increases. So I remember like I was sharing all these things with her. And another solid advice she gave me, she was like, okay, you can't cook. It's too expensive. So what's going to happen to you if you eat Maggi mee for 1 week? And then I stopped and she was like, it's unhealthy, yes. But if you need to survive, Priyanka, then I was like, okay, true. And then she was like, do you realize that this is a survival game for you right now? The toughest will survive. And then she told me this line. She was like, I'm not saying that you have to stay in New York and make this work in New York, but I'm telling you that change some habits. And even then, if it doesn't work, I'm telling you there's no shame in coming back. She told me, you can come back. And I think at that point, a lot of people were calling me. It was very magical. Like my mom was calling me and telling me that like, you can come back home if you want to come back home. You don't have to worry about anybody that you have to tell to that this is not working out, you want to come back home. My father called me and he was like, you don't like it? Just come back home. My sister called me and she was like, Priyanka, this is not working out, just come back. The only person that actually didn't say anything was my brother, which I think after this podcast, I need to sit down with him and be like, what? It seems that, by the way, fun fact, he told my mother, because my mother, I think she got emotional. She was sharing with my brother. My brother was like, didn't she choose this? She has to like make this work.
Savage.
Yeah.
My
brother's the one that always inspires me of like, reality check.
Yeah.
He's that person. But yeah, as in like the whole gist, to just wrap it up, it was truly that one particular call. But even after that call, I just want to wrap up and tell you that the hardest thing when I was making all these tiny changes, Priya, I feel like the cliff went even higher because I couldn't face the mirror. I remember calling you and sobbing over one of the damn things in my life. I was like, I can't look at myself in the mirror because I feel like everything that I told myself that I'm capable of, I felt like I was completely ripped apart. So like that was the peak of like everything being worse. And then of course the natural incline came when you slowly figure things out and you map things out. But yeah.
I feel like the Priyanka that left Singapore versus the Priyanka who came back to Singapore are like two different people. There's no way anybody can look at you now and be like, you can't take New York. Because not only did you take New York, but like she like slayed her semester like nobody's business. You're seeing an all A student, everybody. So, and that's no easy feat, right? You can't downplay that success when you compare it to the amount of like hard work you put through. Because to be very honest, seeing that does it remove all the hard work that you put through? It doesn't. But it is deserved for what you pushed yourself to get over. Like all the single like situation that made it like a little bit harder to get up the next day. You pushed and you pushed. And because of that, you can say, okay, at least whatever I went through, I made sure that I sailed and I sailed well. And I feel like this creates like a much better footing for you when you enter back New York one more time. It's not going to be magically easy, I'm sure, but you know what your capabilities are.
Yeah.
We are reaching the final question.
Okay.
And this is what I want to ask you. So basically, Priyanka has this like quote in her bedroom. She has this frame where she puts like photos, and like in the center of the photos and like her achievements, there's a quote. And it goes, I want to get this word for word right. Okay, remember why you started, hold on to it, and never forget. So before I ask the last question, I want this question to be a reminder. So tell us, why did you start?
Because I belong in New York. Like, truly, that is the reason why I started this whole journey, why I even dreamed about going over there, is because deep down in my heart, I always knew that I belong in New York, because it is a city just solely based on like passionate, hardworking people who are so driven. And I feel like that's the one that I'm so completely like in love with. You think you are cool. Like that was one of those like humbling moments even for myself. Like I'm like, I think I'm cool. I think I have a story. And then you meet 30 other people who are incredibly cool. They have their own stories. They have their own hardships that they went through. And yet they are in New York chasing that dream because they too believe that they are made for New York. And I think that is the one that keeps me so grounded, because I'm like, I'm together with like-minded people chasing after big dreams. And truly, New York is truly a place of like big dreams. You get to see like working adults in blazers and everybody looks so good and they are all going to work. And I'm just like, I want to do that too. I think I can land a job over there. Yeah, so
Manifesting.
yeah, that's why I started.
Beautiful. And you're already on the journey. That's an incredible feat. So with that, I want you to share with us one thing that you would like to tell the Priyanka who started this journey from Singapore to New York. And I want you to promise one thing to the future Priyanka who's going to walk out after 2 years with her master's in hand.
I think now if I can go back in time and tell myself, the girl that was boarding the plane, I would have wanted to tell her that, look here, this is going to be the hardest thing that you have ever done in your entire life. This, what you're going to do for the next 2 years, is going to change your entire life, but it's in ways that you wouldn't have thought. Like, it's not about your career, it's not about your education. What is truly changing is you as a person, because it's like what you said, I came back 5 months later. I truly say this, and because I can feel it, that I don't feel like the same person that went, the Priyanka that went there, like truly died over there, and it was a new version that came out. So something that I want to tell myself is it's going to be incredibly hard, but if you just hold on really tight to that very thin rope that you're holding on to, you can actually make it to the other side. And then your next one was,
what is one thing you would like to promise the future Priyanka who's going to be walking away with her master's?
You have never settled. I think every time in life that you have gotten like comfortable with yourself, I have always noticed this pattern of like, I don't settle. Like, I always realize that in my mind, whenever I finish a chapter of my life, the next thing I'll ask myself is, okay, so what now? Because this can't be it, right? You're not going to settle for this, right? And I want to promise myself that even after I finish my master's, I truly hope I ask myself this question one more time. Like, so what now? Because you cannot settle for that master's just can't. I look forward to graduating, but that's not going to be the end story. I have to remind myself that that is a huge achievement, that we will make it out in 2 years. But it's to remind myself that always ask yourself the question, what's next? Because that's the one that continues to bring me to different heights in my life, I feel personally. Yeah.
Miss Priyanka, you've nailed this interview. I asked you some really brutal questions. You really saw it through. And I just want to take this moment to say that I don't think what you've achieved in the past few months is like any small feat. It is so tough and you did it so gracefully. And I'm so, so proud of you. And I'm sure so are everybody who loves you so much and cares for you like they are own. You can leave this place without any fear. You can cross oceans. You can chase degrees, your masters. But some bonds just know how to swim. And we are always going to be there with you, for you, every step of the way. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this. Thank you for giving me a moment to reflect, I feel, in the last 5 months. Yeah.
You are welcome. We shall end this session with, of course, a quote of the month. This quote is by Thalapathy Vijay. And I felt like it's only right that I end this podcast with a quote by him, because if there's anybody that Priyanka loves so much in this world, I think it's him.
Correct.
So this is what he said. He said, success is never ending and failure is never final. Very blunt in the way that it's said, but it's actually very nuanced if you really take a moment to look into it. So make of that what you will. And with that, I think we can wrap up today's episode. We will catch you with another guest and a new cup of tea in the next episode. This is Priya
And Priyanka.
on Sit Still, Look Pretty, 'cause girl, you're more than a quick gaze.